Honey, grab the binoculars. The Nemdare Thrubwell is shining in this autumn wind. I just am absolutely taken. The shuttlecock has gone south of Nemdare Thrubwell. Oh.
All right, man, I'll do your website for some cider, mate. I used to use making cider. I do websites, man.
I did once turn up to a cider festival, like the Ross and Y cider festival, in a banana outfit, and it made sense in my head at the time. But then I got a bit of paranoia, like, but hang on, a cider's not made from bananas. This isn't going to work. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Neutral Cider Hotel podcast. My name is Gabe Cook, and I'm known as the Ciderologist in cider circles. And that's a bit like a Scientologist, but without the money, Tom Cruise, or the aliens. And on the show today, we've got a roundup of the hottest cider news before speaking to Eleanor, Léger from US Cider Pioneers, Eden Ciders. And we'll wrap up the show by answering the questions of you, our dedicated and fearless listeners. And I'm half suspecting most of them will be, where's Simon from Biffy? But first, wow, what a week it has been. The first week of February is normally synonymous with CiderCon, the world's largest cider gathering. As is the way with the US. It didn't even exist 10 years ago. And now it attracts visitors from all over the world. And, normally there's 1,000 people plus crammed into a giant hotel in Chicago or on one of the seaboards. It's a fantastic event. Obviously, this year it couldn't go ahead in person. So there was a virtual CiderCon, and very fortuitously, I had the opportunity to not only to attend, but to do a little presentation, and it was awesome. It was a great success. Actually, in my opinion, its finest moment was at the very, very start. The very first thing that came up on the screen was the address by the chief executive of the American Cider Association, Michelle McGrath. Hi, Michelle. And whilst she was delivering this address to the whole of the US cider industry and a further 18 nations who had signed up, whilst she was chatting away, on the bookshelf behind her sat a mighty tome. That's right, Bravo 2-0 by Andy McNabb. There it was. Pride of place. She has got good taste in literature, that woman. And obviously, it was the one and only Ciderology by Gabe Cook. Thank you very much. It was there. It was right there. In fact, co-host Mr. Grant Hutchison was watching said address and sent me a message to say, have a look, and obviously sent an emoji of a bell. Ding, ding, ding. So that ding, put... Ding.
I was also at CiderCon, at CiderCon. I might as well just keep saying it like that. And the amount of people who were posting ding in the chats, like when Gabe would arrive. So it was the virtual, so it was kind of like chat sessions with little chat bars on the side, and Gabe would kind of appear, and he had his little logo thing, and it would tell you, oh, Gabe Cook just joined this session, and everyone would go ding ding in the chat. It was brilliant.
No, it was good fun, and I did have the opportunity to undertake a session with Meredith Collins, the blogger Along Came a Cider, and we talked about that UK flavour in the pub chat, and we tried actually in Oliver's at the Hot Perry number 11 and Dunkerton's Black Fox, and it was good fun. And I really gratuitously, just sort of halfway through talking about, I don't know, the intensity of the chlorophenolics or something like that, actually suddenly remembered halfway through, shit, I need to really plug Ciderology by Gabe Cook, because as we discussed in the last show, there is not sufficient demand to merit the transportation or warehousing. So I did a really just, gratuitous, blatant kind of plug of it. And I think Meredith, to her absolute credit, she was managing the show and sort of getting all the questions and putting people up on screen, and she was doing a lot of that. And I'm just there yakking on. I don't think she heard what I said, which is probably just for the best, really. But I'm not sure whether any more copies have been sold. Please, anybody in the US listening, please let me know that you want it, so I can try and justify it to my lovely publisher that there is demand in the USA for that book.
Is there though?
Buy it now. Oh, it's called Ciderology, by the way. That's it. Yeah, sorry.
You had tough competition at CiderCon for that time slot. Because I didn't watch it all of yours, Gabe. I was jumping between them. Well, hold on, because Introduction to TTB's Legal Framework for Cider, with Susan Edmonds from the TTB, was riveting. So I couldn't get pulled away from that, unfortunately. It was just tax.
You saying that tax trumped me? Man, you are turning into me with your tax talk, my friend. Tax is not entertaining. We know this.
What I was flipping between yours and the natural co-fermentation and natural cider, which was absolutely fascinating. Just really interesting cider makers talking about all these co-ferments that they do, and it was just great seeing 4 really experimental cider makers discussing things that have gone wrong, things that have gone right, and just, yeah, it was really, really interesting.
What cider makers were they?
There was Sean Kelly, who's a cider maker from Wildcraft Cider Works. There was Krista Scruggs from Zaffa Wines, who she also makes.
Hi, Krista.
She also makes some really interesting ciders. Nick Gunn was the sort of chair and host, and Keither Smith.
Kiefer Sutherland, yes, the actor.
I had heard that he actually started his own cidery. This is true, yeah. The acting thing wasn't going so well, so he decided to make the 7th most popular beverage in the USA. Yeah.
Top 8.
No Crystal Skull vodka like Dan Aykroyd for Kiefer Sutherland. He went slightly more eclectic.
Well, and co-ferments as well. Natural cider, not even
the most esoteric and dubious of the lot. Bravo.
It's Keither from Botanist and Barrel. I need to bring it back because I haven't mentioned the cidery, and I was just worried we're going to completely. No. It's not too late because I can't have people thinking that Kiefer Sutherland was on a fucking panel talking about.
I'm so going to email Keither Sutherland to see if he wants to come on Neutral Cider Hotel.
This is like the Caledonian Cider Factory, where that's just now going to be the thing where Kiefer Sutherland runs that cidery. So that's just we're broadening our horizons at the hotel, we're just damaging the reputation of other people. So congratulations, Kiefer.
I'm so sorry.
Did you say that was Botanist from Botanist and Barrel?
Yes.
Who are a cider maker that I hadn't heard of until CiderCon last year, when I had the opportunity to meet Lyndon and his wife, whose name I forget just off the top of my head, who are really nice people and were really passionate, and their ciders were fantastic. Grant, there's one to for us to try and sort of pursue to see if we can get that on this side of the pond. That would go down a treat. Some really awesome stuff. I think just with the final bit on CiderCon, the bit that I thought was most fun, and Martin, you would have loved this, and this is something that we need to try and instigate into a platform somehow, was called Cheers and Chat, which was basically chat roulette. If you said, yeah, I want to chat, you went into the room and then suddenly you pinged up with a cider maker and like, hello, yes, how'd you do? What? Either you knew them. For me, I knew about half the people, which was really nice. Like, oh, hey, how's it going? I haven't seen you for ages. And for the other half, it was random people from Virginia, from Washington State, and all sorts. And it was just really fun. You just never knew what was going to happen next, or maybe not so risky as the old chat roulette from the old days.
Well, he only has 3 minutes as well, so it was kind of.
Well, you could choose to extend if you could so wish.
You could, but I don't know. The 3 minutes was kind of exciting to be like, oh, let's get as much out about myself as I can in a 1 minute and a half if it's equally shared. Did you get? I know. Did you
We've got
get?
3 minutes. I've got to get out as much as I can in chat roulette. Jesus Christ!
Oh dear. Yeah, it was fun.
Trying to hold that in. I'm sorry. I was biting my lip, listeners. I was like trying to hold it in. Oh no!
I got loads out. Fuck. Sorry.
I like the idea of Gabe being in this like chat roulette kind of thing, and like from the first episode we put out, like just going, yeah. Have you got a book?
You got.
Yeah, that's what I
Or
should
only
have.
having 3 minutes to answer a question and getting cut off in the middle of his answer.
So part one. Hello.
Or indeed asking them a question that didn't actually end up asking them a question, just making a statement.
Yes.
Yeah. I just talked for 3 minutes and then I didn't even say goodbye. We just got cut off because I was still talking.
It just carries over, so the
probably.
next person's got like, and finally, with the yeast. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh,
dear.
my God.
Do you know what? It just sounds a little bit like a bad dream. And speaking of bad dreams, Martin, what's going on, my friend? You've had a tough
I had
time.
one of the most awful nightmares. It's nothing to do with cider. Well, actually, it's slightly to do with cider. So I had to get up at 6 today for work, and I didn't actually set an alarm. But this dream was so bad, I woke up in a panicked sweat at 6 o'clock. So thank you, nightmare dream. But basically, I wanted to run it by you guys and see if you have dreams like this. But basically, there were these weird, like skinny in-ear headphones that were like kind of weird, fleshy, wiry. And I like put them in. I was just literally doing nothing. Everything's normal in this dream. And I was like, what are these headphones? And I put them in and I could hear, it sounded like the inside of your head, you know, where like blood's rushing and it's like pulsating. And it was like horrible crying and like, and I was like, I do not like this at all. So then I threw them away, but the noise started following me. And then every time it happened, like bits of me would cramp up. So I was like, oh, my hands are like literally like knotted up. So I started pulling them apart. And then this woman heard it as well. And she just started crying and trying to cut her ears off. And I was like, this is just going horribly, just really bad. And then
Sounds like an Aphex Twin video.
it was like, I was like, I do not like this. And then it felt like there was like weird metal in my brain. I was like, all right, it's gone too far. And the headphones were there on the floor, but they were, how do I explain it? They were like joined off. So they became kind of, it looked like the full nervous system of someone and it was just shaking across the floor. And I was like, no. So then I tried to stab myself in the head and then I woke up. And Hannah, in a half sleep dream, turned over and went, you can stop making that noise right now. And I was like, no. I was like the worst night's sleep ever. And then I was like on the way to work driving like, anyone else have anything like that?
Well, I was going to say, ladies and gentlemen, this public health service broadcast has been brought to you by the Neutral Cider Hotel to the perils of consuming far too much cider immediately before going to bed. I was going to say combined with cheese, because often, you know, that can precipitate mad dreams. But for you, Martin, obviously, it wouldn't have
It
been
was
the cheese.
the vegan actually not drinking anything that night. So it might be withdrawals.
There you go.
Oh yeah, withdrawals. Yeah, it sounds
Gone
more
cold
accurate.
turkey.
Oh my God.
That's horrible. Were you aware that you were sleeping at any
No,
point?
this was like, I'm in it. And what was horrible is it was so normal before that. And it was just like the idea that I'd instigated this thing. I was like, what is this? And then like typical Japanese horror, what is this weird otherworldly thing? Oh, I'm going to interact with it. And then it was that the noise was just there. And I was like, well, how can you stop a noise? I was like, this is fucking horrible.
The worst I've had is the kind of sleep paralysis. But then becoming sort of conscious in the dream and being aware that I'm dreaming, and then I got kind of it happens so frequently that I kind of I got to the point of talking myself through it and talking myself out of it and being like, okay, it's okay. There isn't someone in the corner of the room with a knife about to stab you. And yes, you can't move, but the reason you can't move is because you're asleep. So it's all good. It's all good. And like, oh, it was so weird. I mean, but this was like months of like night terrors before you getting to that point of like, oh, I recognize this again. It was super interesting, like totally pure Inception shit going on, but it's
just your Scottish tones guiding you through. I did not have that. I had a panicked Cornishman going, "Go away, get away." You had, "Don't worry, mate, it's all fine. Everything's good."
Yeah, but that was like I say, that wasn't like the first time that happened. First time it happened, it was like, fucking, what the fuck am I doing? And like, not being able to move, and then slowly it kind of I managed to talk myself down, or just be aware that what was happening wasn't real and I was in control and it was fine. And then I was I thought about getting into what's the dreaming state where you
lucid dreaming.
Lucid dreaming, yeah. There's like this really interesting book on it and telling you how to train yourself to do it. And it just got a bit much. I was like,
should start a cider business.
Yeah, totally.
There's no money in this lucid dreaming.
I wasn't trying to make money off it. It was just
there might be more money than cider. You never know. Grant, so other than your crazy dreams, what else did your week hold?
7 days of sweat.
Okay, thank you very much. Well done. And moving on. Yeah.
I'm doing as you alluded to, February at the top of the show there. I didn't do dry January. I didn't really do a healthy January. So I have decided to kickstart it with a 7 days of sweat by Joe Wicks on YouTube, where you do like high intensity training for 7 days in a row. And today was day 5, and I'm in a lot of pain. There's a cushion on the seat that there isn't normally a cushion on, just to ease the contact that the wooden bench has with my bum cheeks.
Producer Scott, does Joe Wicks mean anything for you or your fellow US listeners? No. Who do we think? He's
John Wick. I know John Wick.
Yeah. He's not. He was a bit like John Wick. He's got dark hair. I suppose.
He's like the saddest English version of Mr. Motivator. Like in a great way. He's wonderful.
He's not going to mean anything either, though, right?
The Americans must know Mr. Motivator. Do you know Mr. Are you fucking kidding? Is that a thing that's like?
That was GMTV.
You are not cultured. You fuck off.
Okay,
no, Scott. He is a young Richard Simmons. That's who.
Richard Simmons. That's who I was trying to think of.
Lead singer of Kiss. He really.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, I know. It's great. You wouldn't know without the face paint. It's amazing the double lives these people have. He's a very popular PT.
With seniors or
I mean, to be fair, Richard Simmons, probably Mr. Motivator is the equivalent of Richard Simmons. I'm sure there's probably someone in the US who's more like Joe Wicks, who is young and is actually really fit and has like cookbooks and like does videos and motivational shit. He's been doing this during lockdown. He's been doing a sort of PE session at 3 days a week.
Motivated the country. It was a proper positive movement,
and it was the kind of point of it was that parents are homeschooling and part of that should be PE. So what they can do it with their kids in the morning at 9 o'clock with Joe Wicks. This 20 minutes, 25 minutes workout, and so many people did it. And obviously you're mainly stuck inside and not exercising. And lots of people would probably be like, "Fuck, I'm not going to bother exercising." And he sort of, like Martin says, totally motivated everyone to do it.
Well, one thing as well, he would start his live video as well, Scott, and just go on. But if you type Joe Wicks fart, basically, he thought it wasn't recording. He was practicing to go on, and he goes, "All right, 1, 2, oh." And it's the loudest thing, and because it was live, everyone's like, "Oh no, mate!" So he had to put out an apology and go like, "I just felt a tightness in my stomach, and it just went."
And then,
So
but then
human.
what was great though, like the next session was the session where he dresses up to do the workout, and he dressed up as a whoopee cushion to reference his
Yes.
parts. He's just hilarious, like just this kind of geeky exercise guy. But that's what I'm doing, sweating like fuck.
It was funny, whilst reaching for another bottle of cider, I did catch a whiff of my armpit, and it smelled like I was the one doing 7 days of sweat, when indeed I'm not. Although I did go for a run today, and I got icicles on my moustache. It was so...
Well, like right at the end.
So
Right.
bitterly, just all across the top. No, all across
Whoa.
the... Oh,
Well done for getting out, though.
Curly spiral icicles.
Totally.
I'm here to steal Christmas.
oh dear. So, yeah, apologies. There we go. And apologies for the smell. Not that you can smell that, fortunately for you.
Oh, the smell will be in the show notes.
Excellent. There we go. That's our intro for the show. Now let's open up the papers and see what's happening in this week's Cider News. And so now it's time for the news. This week, what have we got? Martin.
Yeah, so first off, bit of a shameless plug, and there's no sound effect for this, but I'm doing a cider box sort of social sync drink thing with Dan at the Cider Box. So basically,
Hi, Dan.
Hey, hello, Dan. Yeah, basically we'll be on February the 26th going through 3 ciders, and they're all up online, so I won't go too deep in here, but basically the whole thing is going to be kind of the unsexy side of cider. I know I'm selling it, but we're talking pretty much about stability of packaging, filtration, and pasteurization, because I think they're really fucking important to actually discuss, but they're not sexy. So none of us actually really address it, but they make everything so fucking distinctly the thing. And coming off of one of the ciders that I blended with Martin, and we didn't pasteurize, but we sterile filtered, it changed so much from the blending, the tasting, and then the final product that I think it's a worthy chat, and it's a good excuse to get pissed on 3 750s.
Bravo. As if any further excuse was needed. Go check it out. That should be a lot of fun for our UK listeners, presumably not able to get across the pond or across Europe just yet.
Sorry, Europe.
Just yet. Sorry, Europe. Sorry, the rest of the world.
Turns out we cut our nose to spite our face for no reason. So no cider box for you, Europe.
And in other news, we are coming back to something that we have discussed previously, which is about cider, about a particular cider maker in Somerset and COVID. This gentleman, was it in November time? I think he proudly proclaimed that he had the cure for COVID, which was his cider. Well, funnily enough, strange how the world works, isn't it? It's also his cider that's got him into a spot of bother because he was caught by the police serving it when obviously he shouldn't be having lots of people around the farm.
Hang on,
unmasked.
that was him.
Frolicking. That was him.
That was right. Oh, fucking
You didn't
hell,
know that?
mate.
You didn't know that?
I saw the video, and like for anyone in the States who wants to see body cam footage of police, and I would love to hear your reaction in the States of how the police treat these little people in Somerset. They walk up to him and go, "You're right there. You got a few in here, aren't you?" And it's like this. All of these people could be spreading a deadly virus. Like, oh, you lot seem you're drinking, mercy. Like, oh, fuck off. No. Sorry, Roger. Fucking dead to me.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Unless
I
this
can't.
is some serious
it's
talk
a
right
serious
here.
fucking. We're in a pandemic. I know it's like money and time for everything.
I know.
Unreal. Unreal.
But the thing is as well is like that. I think Gabe and I have spoken about how we visited there, and those people, they're not. He's not making any money off those people. They're just sitting drinking his cider in the shed. So it's not like he can go, oh, I'm really, like, it's a tight time at the moment, and I can't, like, you tell me to shut and you tell me to do this. He can't argue that. It's just he's got loads of pals around drinking cider, and at a time, like you say, when everyone's not doing that, or not everyone is, but most people are not doing that because they fear spreading this deadly virus, and they're just like, fuck it, it's not going to stop me drinking cider. Nah, not okay.
Well, actually, yeah. Well, I've changed my mind after hearing you talk about it, Grant, because he's got the cure.
Well,
so
that's
surely
correct.
they're all. I'm torn. Honestly, Roger, you're in the good books. Maybe I don't know.
I would love to see the body cam footage from when they finally tracked Roger down, because he's not in the video that's online, and whether he said, "Look, boys, look, it's all right, boys. I've got. Did you not see the art? I've got the cure. It's cool. We're at the epicenter here, you know, and all those blue barrels you see. That's vaccinations, technically."
What's good with him, if you look at the footage and see who's there, they're all fucking vulnerable people, so they'd be first in line for the cure as well. It's a proper torn nightmare. You look at it and you're like, guys, there's some people, I know listeners that will not have seen family members for ages. It was my nan's birthday the other day, and I've not seen her properly since this kicked off. And you're just like, to forgo that, to have someone just essentially being like, I'm just going to go have a cider at my regular, innit? And they've probably driven there. Like, oh, it really wound me up.
Driven there. You don't think you can walk there from anywhere, really.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, pretty shitty. But it's, you know, it's a little bit comical. The
hilarious.
The footage is a little bit funny.
Yeah, the footage is the best bit where you, like I say, watching it from the States, it would be great to hear, Scott, as well, your opinion. I want to show you the
more
footage
people,
and see if...
more people here.
There's more there, isn't there?
Anyway, that's Roger Wilkins.
And there we go. That's going to do it, I think, for the news this week. Coming up next, our chat and tasting with Eleanor from Eden Cider. And now here at the Neutral Cider Hotel, it's time for this week's interview. And our guest this week is, in my opinion, at the helm of one of the most significant cider makers operating today anywhere in the world. That's right. Based about 8 miles, maybe 9, from the Canadian border in the state of Vermont, our guest and her team source and grow apples produced using biodynamic principles to create a range of ciders that are a wonderful expression of terroir and time, specializing in minimum intervention styles such as ice cider and méthode traditionnelle. That's right. Checking into the Neutral Cider Hotel today is the co-founder of Eden Cider and the newly elected president of the American Cider Association, not the United States of America. It is Joe Biden. No, it's Eleanor Léger. Woo!
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome, Madam President. Dare I say? I doff my metaphorical cap to you.
Yes, I've been practicing my Robert's Rules of Orders to be able to say, do I hear a motion? Because that's pretty much all I have to do.
So you're based in Vermont. I suspect that you're under about 6 feet of snow at the moment. Is it a little bit chilly in the midwinter? Or?
Winter was late getting started this year. We really, in my opinion, have only had about a month of it.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that is interesting. Well, I was going to come
It's definitely white, but it's not 6 feet white. Yeah.
Was going to be coming straight in with, compared to certainly the mild, damp UK, your experience of cider making in your climate, in your climate zone, is a little bit different. How much impact does being in such a sort of cold climate have an impact over your orcharding practices and over your cider making endeavors?
It's definitely a key part of everything we are. In the orchard, it means there are varieties that really don't like us very much. We've tried and they have rejected us soundly. So we're sort of in that borderline between warm enough to grow apples and cold enough to make ice cider naturally outdoors every winter.
Wow.
And it's a very fine line. So
Absolutely.
Can we talk about ice cider? You've mentioned it straight away. It's one of your the techniques and drinks that you're known for. Can you talk a little bit about ice cider for someone who's maybe quite new to it as a concept, as a product, as a drink?
Yes. It is a very niche, weird thing. So for everybody who's used to dry, sparkling, funky kinds of cider, we're the opposite extreme. When we talk about ice cider, it's a sweet dessert wine. It's still, no bubbles typically. And it's a function of this crazy cold concentration process where we are using natural cold weather to concentrate the juice before fermentation to, think about sort of like a 5-to-1 ratio. So we start with 5 and we end up with 1, and a super high sugar level, and then a slow cold fermentation that we arrest in the middle of it that leaves lots of residual sweetness. So we get to about anywhere from 10 to 13% alcohol, depending upon what we're doing, and anywhere from 15 to 19% residual sugar, which in grams per liter is 150 to 190 grams per liter.
Fucking hell.
And for anybody who's not in the know, that's quite a lot. It's a bit on.
Hence my swearing there.
Yeah.
So that's what we started with back in 2007 because we felt we were in Montreal. This is something ice cider was developed in southern Quebec about 25, 30 years ago. I feel like I was saying 20 years ago, but I've been saying it for 10, 14 years, so I need to update the number. So,
everyone thinks like the year 2000's 10 years ago. Every time,
right.
That's then.
So we tasted it in Montreal, and we were like, this is Vermont terroir because, cold weather and interesting apple varieties, that's what we have in Vermont. Apple is our state fruit. They've been growing wild here for a long time. So whereas in southern Quebec, which is sort of flat and spread out and very agriculturally managed, Vermont is very hilly, lots of topography, a lot of it sort of untamed, and the deer and all the other rodents and everything else have been planting apples and growing wild apple trees for, centuries. And so we have fascinating apples and we've got really cold weather. And so we were like, my husband and I were like, well, why is nobody really doing this in Vermont? And we decided to go. I had left a job and I was not sure what I was going to do next. And I thought, well, in the meantime, I'll just try and make some in our basement. And I have the problem that me and a project are never casual conversationalists. It's like all in. So
yeah.
And then, of course, I ended up making more than we could drink ourselves. So then I had to see if anybody else would want some. So that's sort of the story. But we were really passionate about it because, this is something you can make at a small scale because it's high, it's a small volume with a very high price. It's dollars of gross margin per bottle. And we could imagine, doing it on a small scale and being able to build a sustainable business that way. And we felt this was what, you could imagine that the best ice cider in the world could come from Vermont. Red wine, not so much. The
Vermont Shiraz hasn't quite made it to the market just yet.
No, and it never will. But Marquette is pretty good. So, but that's a different conversation. So that's ice cider, and we make three main ice ciders that are sort of always available in the market. Not always. We kind of run. Well, every once in a while we run out, but and then we do all sorts of one-offs. So, special barrel aging or, fun things like that. So,
well, I started out in beer, before cider, and Vermont to me is synonymous with beer culture. Two things: beer culture, hazy IPAs, and Bernie Sanders. So what, to anyone, the listeners here in the UK,
welcome to Vermont.
What's the cider culture there like? And as well, what was the cider culture there like when you started making more than you and your husband could drink?
So at that time, The largest producer in the U.S. is in Vermont, and that was Woodchuck. And we have more cider producers per capita than any other state, and we have some very large, successful cider companies in Vermont. Many of whom started after I did and have grown to be much bigger than we are. So we and the other fun thing is, I mean, so there are like 20 of us, is we get together and we represent in our little state the full spectrum of everything the cider market has to offer. So we have like really big concentrate based 6-pack bottle convenience store cider. We have regional canned ciders with all kinds of crazy things added into them. We have teeny little cider makers, 1-person wild forage kinds of stuff, and a few ice cider makers, and then we do everything from ice cider to champagne method to anything that strikes our fancy that we want to make that year.
Well, dare I say, it's funny that you should say that, Eleanor. Thank you. You didn't know it, but you segued beautifully into allowing us to drink some of your cider. Hooray!
Excellent,
We've
yay.
all got a bottle of your extra sec, which is great. So we're all going to have a bit of a pour and have a bit of taste. Tell us a little bit about, what is this cider? What's gone into it? How's it made?
So that's a champagne method cider. An extra sec is a champagne term that refers to a certain percentage of residual sweetness, right? So brut is actually drier than extra sec, even though extra sec sounds like extra dry, but it's not. And so this is the same as our brut nature, but it has a little dosage of ice cider when we do the disgorging of the yeast out of the bottle. So you'll notice when you look at it that it's there's no sediment left in the bottle because we've done this crazy hand disgorging process. But it's not crystal clear because it's unfiltered. It's naturally sparkling. And it has a little bit of residual sweetness from the ice cider dosage. It's 100% apple. The secondary fermentation is done using ice cider as the sugar source for the champagne yeast. And, we do a second fermentation in the bottle. And so it's 100% apple. There's nothing else. And it's when it's held on well, it's absolutely fantastic. It's one of my favorite ciders we've ever made, and it's a labor of love. It takes about 2 years to produce this cider.
Jesus.
But the problem is, it's because it's got residual sweetness in it, and we don't use all kinds of preservatives. It can go in directions we don't desire. It's not predictably stable. And so we've stopped producing it because we did have a couple of instances where it had re-fermented, and that it was an unhappy thing.
You're literally stopping making it full stop. This is it.
Yeah.
This is the last time we're ever going to try this.
Buy
That's
it
right.
now, people.
Apart from the other bottle I've got downstairs.
Yeah.
But apart from that,
Yeah.
this is it.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's it.
Save it, Gabe.
Let's talk about it from our point of view. This is the first time I believe I've drank it, and the thing that stands out, the aroma is gorgeous, but the thing that stands out to me, the texture. Like, I've got that residual sugar, but it's just so full, rich, but drinks so easy. It's like I finished a glass before you even said 2 words about it. But usually with these, and like we're talking about brut and the drier side of things, that like you get that spritz, the carbonation, light and clean. This is like that, and then there's this warm like honey hue through it. It's just
Honey
delicious.
Honey's all the way through it. It's beautiful. It is though, and that's what sets it apart from a brut.
Mm.
Is that the ice cider that's providing that
The little bit of residual
that
sweetness
little
that helps bring
nuggety
forward the fruit.
intensity? Yeah.
And how did you specifically pick a specific ice cider that you'd made that would work particularly well, or was it how did you marry those flavors? Because I watched one of the blending sessions on at CiderCon, and that was super interesting. But at no point was this kind of blending mentioned. I feel like you're bringing these ciders from 2 different worlds, and that must be quite a difficult blending process to do.
So we use a lot of the same apples in the base cider in the champagne method.
Right.
It's about 50% tannic varieties and then 50% the same heirloom varieties that are in our heirloom blend ice cider. So we use the heirloom blend ice cider as both the sugar source for the tirage, the secondary fermentation, and for the dosage after fermentation, or once we did the disgorging. So those apples it's the same ones. They're all happy together.
That makes sense.
And that blend was something that came our very first winter when I was like just fooling around. And as an example of how I fool around, I went and got 36 different varieties.
Madam President, what are you doing?
That was going to be one of my questions. You've predicted it. Okay.
I got 36 varieties of apples. I got 205-gallon carboys. 200.
Yeah.
200.
Pressed 36 varieties.
Whoa.
Froze them individually in carboys. Built a rack. Got help our carpenter build a rack for me so I could turn them upside down and use maple sap tubing to have them drain into another collection vessel. And then was like blending, like what blending is going to work with this? So
Jesus.
That's incredible.
But that attention and care. I mean, the product is so like refined and beautiful. Like that makes sense now you're saying it, but I just you're kind of in awe of hearing it because it just sounds like, to be blunt, such a faff. That sounds like so much work. Like, do you think that's intrinsic to the product, or is that would you do that if you were making any other thing, or is this just right place, right time? This is how I make cider in Vermont.
I guess the thing is having the passion for the fruit and all these incredible varieties of apples that are rare and hard to find here. I think it's quite different where you are. We don't have these apples in a lot of places. And, I always sort of refer to the numbers. In the U.S., we grow 250 million bushels of grocery store apple varieties, Washington State being the biggest producer, New York being second. So 250 million, there might be, I don't know, 150,000 bushels a year of these interesting apples. I mean, it's just orders of magnitude less.
It's nothing.
They're rare, they're special, they have all these different flavors. I've people say, well, were you in the wine business before? I'm like, on the consumer side. Yeah. I like to drink good wine. I've been fortunate earlier in my life to be in a career where I could afford to drink some good wine. And I think palate education is really important. I think if you're coming to cider making and you don't know what makes wine special, which is that experience of tasting something and having the balance and the texture and the fruit all hang together in sort of a magical way where you sort of say, yeah, I can taste this note or this note, but you really can't explain why it's so delicious. That's the magic. And that's kind of, we don't always achieve that. In fact, most of the time we don't, but that you have this sort of experience in your head that you're shooting for. And it may be, the experience for a dessert wine is totally different than the experience for a champagne method, but in the purpose for which you're making cider, you're shooting for something that's, better than just, oh, it's okay.
Do you think you owe it to the fruit that you grow that it has to be that level?
Yes. And there's a real mission oriented to that, which is, we have a teeny little orchard, but we are also really working to support small orchards around Vermont. They cannot compete in global commodity agriculture. Even the larger orchards in Vermont can't compete in global commodity agriculture. I mean, the largest one is maybe, 150 acres, compared to 11,000 acres on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So, and most of the orchards that we work with are 10 or less. And
wow.
They need an economic reason to keep growing this amazing fruit. And because the apples are rare here, we pay them significantly more than the folks who make canned ciders with all kinds of stuff added into them from leftover grocery store apples pay for their juice. And it's 10 times.
So do you feel like you're keeping that alive then? That
Yeah,
those
absolutely.
traditions and that heritage. What do you think would happen to these apples and these orchards and these growers if people like you weren't making cider in the way that you do?
They would be grown a little bit out of love by people who are crazy and passionate like we are.
Yeah.
Just because, who for whom it's, I want 4 trees in my backyard. And they might be grown by, there's a nonprofit in the southern part of the state who grows quite a bit of interesting heirloom fruit. But, people who are trying to make life work on a small farm or a small piece of land in agriculture, might be a diversified farm, might be a small orchard. There are a couple of historic small orchards that we work with, need somebody who's going to come along and pay, $25 a bushel instead of 3.
And how important is the biodynamic element to your operation? It's obviously something that you believe in, and do you think that it really makes a difference in terms of the overarching flavor at the end of the day in terms of the final product?
I don't think anybody has the comparative research to really be able to answer that question yet.
Well done, Gabe. You asked one question.
It's really good. It's
Thank
a really
you.
good. It's a
good
super
night.
important question. It's a super
No,
important
Eleanor,
question.
don't entertain him.
No, don't.
You're lucky you didn't get a 4-minute yes or no.
Yeah, exactly. Be thankful for small mercies. But sorry, maybe I'll put the focus onto the importance for it for you in terms of your endeavors.
Right. Yeah. So we planted 3 different blocks, 2008, 2009, 2010, with 55 different varieties in this experiment to figure out biodynamic, holistic from day one, what will grow in our crazy northern climate with this crazy management program that will produce apples reliably that are actually good in cider as we make it. And after whatever it's been, almost 14 years, we can tell you out of 55, there are about 15 that really work. So,
Okay.
So now we're sort of, top grafting, replanting, that kind of thing. But I guess the thing about the holistic is just knowing that, we need to find a different way to do agriculture for this planet. And since we're all about small scale and relocalization, why not try and figure out how to do that in a way that's not going to support Monsanto and folks like that. So, we make our own compost teas, and we spray liquid fish. And Ben does he basically ferments microbes, happy good microbes that we put on the trees.
And who did you look to when you first decided to do that? Who was doing that already, or who did you take the knowledge and the inspiration and the skills from to do that? There are other cider makers doing that, or winemakers? Was it the wine world? Or?
No, it was Michael Phillips. You may have had other folks from the Northeast talk about him. He wrote a book called The Organic Apple Grower, and he's held an annual meeting of growers around, New York and New England to talk about these practices once a year. And Ben, who is our orchard manager, who's been with us since 2009, and he's the one who's been driving the program and does all the work and goes to this meeting and, communicates with the other growers that are trying to do the same thing, what's working, what's not working. Autumn of Eve's Cidery is also part of that.
Yes,
she's in the same practices.
Friends of the show, I think we can describe them as.
Absolutely. And obviously, because you're a US producer, but the USA, it's quite a large area, certainly compared to our little island, our tiny island on the edge of the Atlantic that we have over here, and it's fair to say
we are matching you in COVID cases, so. Watch your heels, America. The UK is coming.
You're not necessarily number one at everything, so.
It's not even funny.
I know.
How important is the Cider Association in America for makers and why?
So the primary role of the association is advocacy for our industry. And from the point of view of national legislation, it's been, I'll say, remarkably effective for such a small industry in terms of supporting legislation that has made the taxation on excise tax on cider significantly less of a burden.
How, I guess, as Gabe's mentioned there, the size of the country, the difference in size of producers. How you bring it all? Because you somehow managed to bring all those people together. You've got Angry Orchard involved in the association.
We've worked incredibly hard, and I have to credit the original leadership of the association when it was formed back in 2012 or something.
Is that only how old it is?
Yeah, exactly. Staking out from the very beginning that we would be an association to represent the industry as a whole. And our cider is a small category in the U.S., but we have the same diversity across cider that you see across beer and across wine, right? In terms of price point, volume, relative volume, creativity, entrepreneurship. When we started, there were 85 cideries in the U.S. They're now 1,200.
Wow.
And that's just in like 13 years.
Whoa.
Oh,
that's insane. So you now, we spoke at the top of the show, we spoke about CiderCon because we were sort of, well, Gabe was actually a part of it. I was sort of stalking around the rooms on my laptop. I wasn't an official. I wasn't a speaker. I wasn't anything like that. But I enjoyed being a part of it. It's my first one in any capacity, virtual or real. And you mentioning how young the association is to have gone from inception to the point of having a conference for cider, I think is kind of incredible. Where was the idea for CiderCon always there, or was it something that recently came up? Or
CiderCon started pretty early. It was the brainchild of one of the original members, James Cohn at Wandering Angus out on the West Coast. Really was the one who kicked it off. And then over time, as the association became more real and established and had sort of the official structures in it, it got to the point where it could take on CiderCon as a vehicle.
So a lot of people's point of reference when they hear CiderCon would be Comic-Con. Can we bring in something where people dress up? Like, hold on, right? Okay.
Don't joke.
Maybe it's already happened. I've not been present at one before. But is that something is that something you could bring in, and who would you dress up as if from the cider world?
Oh, good question. Yes. All right, Eleanor.
Don't say Gabe, because that's too easy. You just draw on a moustache.
Yes.
Be a bit
iconic. Those iconic.
And walk around with a bell.
There's a mug with like Bernie's hairdo on it, and instantly it's just white, but that that's Bernie. And like Gabe, you could do the same thing for Gabe.
Just with
yes. Yep. From the side, it would have to be a profile one, to get the full effect.
I did kind of like what's the word? I did kind of say that I nearly decided to come to my first CiderCon, dressed in an Apple costume, so like all jest in kind of like English bravado. I'm so glad that I didn't, because just imagine in the hall, I'm the only person kind of dressed up. That wouldn't have got. I think Mr. Oliver vetoed it. To be fair,
God,
I know.
Thank you, Tom.
Knowing his sense of humour, though, I'm surprised he didn't go, "Oh yeah, no, I'll be packing mine as well." Like, we've all got one. Yeah. We're going as the full orchard.
Like an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Well, I did once turn up to a cider festival, like the Ross and Y cider festival, in a banana outfit, and it made sense in my head at the time. But then I got a bit of paranoia, like, but hang on, cider's not made from bananas. This isn't going to work. But I kind of think I kind of missed the point. Anyway,
wait, that's when you, the ciderologist, realised that cider wasn't made out of, in fact,
that
bananas.
was the moment that the ciderologist was born. I think quite possibly.
Okay, now, honestly, Gabe, I'll tell you what though. Like with CiderCon, the big difference between that and Comic-Con, the hentai is very low. So like with the cider scene in
we
the
haven't
States,
answered my question. Eleanor's not getting off that lightly.
Eleanor said Gabe side profile.
No, that's for the mug. That's for the mug.
I thought that was pretty good at deflecting, right? And that was
I'm not letting you away with that, Eleanor.
I took that, but
That's
Grant
why
is
you're a
apparently
president.
not letting that go.
That was very presidential.
Yes.
We have had a conversation about having some kind of a ball at the next CiderCon. So,
A southern ball.
whether it's a costume, I'm not sure I would go for a costume ball.
Gabe's going to do it
something
anyway.
where you get to just get dressed up in some way and celebrate cider would be
that
awesome.
would be lovely.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Martin. You ask your question.
Especially because none of us have gotten dressed up for anything since March of last year.
I might
Everyone going out in full like black
I dressed
tie.
up for this. I put on purple. That was it.
Oh, yeah.
I might just come in my pajamas to the next CiderCon. I'll be so used to
That's
it.
what I've done for this. For listeners at home. I'm just wearing a top over my pajamas, so the illusion is here. But really, I'm ready for bed. I'm done. But the thing that's keeping me up, genuinely, this cider is stunning. But and it does. I can't think of another drink in the UK that matches this. Like there's usually you've got that's like the UK one, but like with less tannins, or actually it's more fruit forward. And the texture, the body, the weight, and the carbonation seem wholly unique to you. Maybe not even from a region, but just as a producer. Were you inspired by anyone to get into the drink? Were there any makers where you were like, I love that cider and I want to make that?
Oh, yes. And it's absolutely a function of when I got bit by the cider bug and who was leading the way at the time. And that was Steve Wood at Farnham Hill and Autumn at Eves, who I think started maybe 3 years before I did and is, a little more than half my age. And I, spent a day with her and just totally adore her and Ezra and their kids and everything that they do and love their ciders. And yeah, I want to be her when she grows up. No, I don't know how that works, but
but the farming practices seem to match as well. Like it isn't just like, let's make the drink the same, but like the whole from seed to bottle kind of process is there. Like what was the drink from them that everyone's got like their drink? Is there one from their category that you were like, that's the one?
Autumn's Gold.
Got one downstairs. Lovely.
Available in the UK now through Restalk Distributors.
Thanks, Eleanor.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. It's actually not anymore. It's 2017.
Sold out.
2017 sold out. 2018 still available.
Eleanor, you've had the opportunity to come to the UK on one or two occasions. Who are the cider makers or the drinks that you really enjoy on this side of the pond?
Oh, don't put me on the spot like that, Gabe.
Come on.
I love them all.
You're a president. You've got to be used to this. Come on. You're like, this is the role.
Seriously, I've come to the Bristol Cider Salon twice. I guess the first time was the first time it happened, right?
Yep.
What was that place we were at that was a really unique space?
It's the Old Market Assembly, which is it's an old bank. That's right.
Yeah, it had like a lower level, and then you went up, sort of walked around upstairs.
Yeah,
you were top.
You were top right in the back, weren't you?
Yeah.
And I only know that because I got there last, and I nearly fell down the stairs getting down.
So you were stalking around rooms that night.
I wasn't stalking. I was just openly just preying on anything that had apples on it.
I was like, Albert, my husband, came with me, and I was like, you're going to stay here and pour because I'm going to go out and talk to everybody and taste everybody's stuff. And it was it felt to me the way getting together with cider makers, maybe like early CiderCon, had felt 5 or 6 years earlier when we were smaller as an industry, and there were, it felt like everybody who was there was approaching cider from a similar point of view, which is it's about the apples and the trees and pressing at harvest when everything is at full ripeness, and thinking about it more like wine than like beer, and thinking about it like cider.
We had it here in the UK where, and I went to the first one, and Gabe helped set it up as well. But like the notion of it was like, we've got this whole cider history, and that's a blessing and a curse. And that a lot of people go, no, I know what cider is, but they only know a part of it. And that felt like the first time where I'd been chatting to people. My family came with me, and they were like, this is fucking amazing. And we're like, yeah, no, I've been talking about this, but it felt like a galvanized moment. Did it feel like you were on the outside looking in, like you were saying in America, you felt that earlier, but did it feel like, oh, the UK cider scene is actually on that now?
Yes, exactly. Same feeling. It was really thrilling. And I enjoyed everybody I met there. And I think the other part of it is not only the shared vision for what cider is and what cider can be, but also, cider makers are just great people. We're not stuffy like wine people, and we're not, I'm not even going to say anything about beer people. We have a connection to the land, and, a lot of people come from being farmers or having an orchard, a farm in their, extended family somehow. And it just feels very down to earth, and with yet still a real passion for the art and the craft and the fruit.
So, did you actually answer any cider makers that you enjoyed? You're very, very talented at this deflection.
All of them.
Madam President, we can't start any wars with the UK.
I say to people, I'm a lover, not a hater.
Can you be our president as well? This
Gabe,
is great.
Don't go, that's so nice.
Like,
she's just deflected again.
No,
this is like
push her, Gabe. Come on, Gabe. You're like you need to be the David Frost here.
Okay, so you were at the cider salon, Eleanor. Who was the table where you and your husband drank the most at? There you go. Doesn't even have to be the best. But you were obviously walking around. You're like, oh, who's this ginger guy in the way? I'll move him. I'm trying to get to table X.
Oh, God, you're going to make me tell the truth.
Of course I am. Yeah, this is what this hard journalistic podcast is about. The truth.
The truth is, I drank so much cider I don't remember.
It's got a blur. Just a blur.
Well, Martin can certainly empathise with that situation.
I mean, I can testify that as well from the second one. I mean, I
think we all probably can.
I bought a sausage roll off Martin's wife in a taxi.
It's not a euphemism.
1 p.m. wasn't it?
Roll, yeah.
That's not a euphemism. No, it's a real life.
That's how we measure drugs in England. It's the old what a sausage roll.
It was the first time I met James. Well, I think Susanna had come to CiderCon. No, she came to CiderCon after I came to Bristol Cider Salon. Right, so it's the first time I met James and Susanna. I met Once Upon a Tree Simon Day, right?
Oh, yeah.
I knew Tom because he had come over before.
Tom who?
Yeah.
I know. It's for any of those residual Biffy listeners.
Yeah. Oh my word.
I remember going to there was a presentation or a tasting in a different, as part of the schedule. Maybe that was the next year. With Fine and Foster. Cider, right? That was excellent. The Wilding guys were up near us.
Fine and Foster seem like a good comparison, I think, because like they care so much about every element, and they only make. Gabe, do you know how many liters of cider, or how many thousands of liters they make?
Well, it will not be any more than 7,000 litres, because that will be the duty exemption maximum is at 7,000 litres. So it's a pretty small amount.
But yeah, they like bring life back to abandoned orchards, and it's all about preserving that in the drink as well. And that's what everything I've had from you feels like, this just elegant, clean, beautiful expression. So I just clocked on it then of like, oh, actually that's a good comparison. So anyone in the UK that can't get this, because this is sold out, the extra sec, but
Well, it might not be sold out. We managed to get it last week, but once it's gone, it's gone.
yeah, once it's gone, it's gone. But the idea that like there are makers in other regions doing a similar thing, and the farming element is something that's interesting, because I think a lot of people, almost as well on the flip side, you were talking about beer and the connection to land versus that, but a lot of the drinkers here aren't in the countryside, they're in the city. So like their view of sort of country and drinking is crazy different. So like with the farming in Vermont, how is that in the temperature and the weather? How is apple growth there in Vermont?
We are one of the most rural states. We're in the Northeast, so people think that, we have Boston and New York, but they're fairly far away. And Vermont is a small state. We have 620,000 people, I think, total. That's it in the whole state. And we're very rural. So agriculture is a big part of our story and our economy. And people's livelihoods. And it's a different kind of, I don't know, if you talk to people in the States, in different states, and they've heard of Vermont, the first thing they're going to talk about is maple syrup.
Bernie Sanders.
Ben and Jerry's.
From a
Ben and
food
Jerry's,
point of view.
surely.
Ben and Jerry's, yes. Well, that's right.
Are you going to do a Ben and Jerry's flavored cider? That's the most important question tonight.
No, that's the wrong question. The question is Ben and Jerry's going to do an Eden cider flavor ice cream?
If either Ben or Jerry are listening, I know they're regular listeners to this podcast. Get in touch with Eleanor about an ice cream.
Ice cider frozen yogurt. It's actually fantastic. They need to do it, but that's another story. So
vanilla ice baby, Madagascar vanilla ice cider. Got it all in. I've done it, mate.
Yeah,
easy.
You did.
Anyway, carry on. I've done my plug for Ben and Jerry's. I was going to do fish food, but no. You go on. You go on, expert in your field.
Fish food wins. I'm with you. Totally. I agree. Being a Vermont band, yes. The unique thing about Vermont is this real focus on specialty agriculture, because we don't have the kind of landscape that allow for large scale agriculture. Everything is specialty. So we're a huge dairy state historically, more than any other New England state in terms of fluid milk production. But people can't survive in that market either, and so we're a leader in really high end artisan cheese, incredible beer, right? Maple syrup, specialty foods. It's really that's the culture of Vermont, and we were the first state to create a link between chefs and farms. There's a Vermont Fresh Network that was formed, and the percentage of Vermonters who buy local is like 40 times higher than any other state. So it's a very unique place from a perspective of specialty, high quality food and drink. That was more than you wanted to know. I'm sorry.
No. That was
no. Apology accepted, because we didn't want to know any of that.
You not only are you taking on the mantle of a president of the American Cider Association, but quite possibly president of the USA, Ben and Jerry's MPD manager, a marketing manager for the Vermont Dairy Marketing Board, and tourism manager for Vermont as well. There's a lot of hats you wear in there, Eleanor. But I suppose. To finish up on, given I say that as you said, the sort of the 20 years or the 20 and a few more now experience that you have had in the cider industry, what would you say to yourself at the start of your journey, having learnt everything that you know now?
Do it someplace closer to a larger population center.
At least you didn't say don't do it. You know, that would have been a real negative finish. That would have been a real negative finish.
No,
Well
I think,
said.
but our challenge has been that it's our where we are located is 2 hours from a population center, and even that population center is not very big. So it's we've had to, and especially making ice cider, go out and go to market through distributors in faraway places from a very early point, and that's hard and expensive.
So you're saying for any new cider makers coming in, just don't step on your territory. Don't be in Vermont.
Stay away.
No, or look at Citizen Cider in Burlington. That was the right place to start. Absolutely, yeah. Which is the capital city of Vermont. Not the capital city. Sorry, Montpelier's the capital. It's the big city.
You get it right, Eleanor. Come on, like this is the presidential
it's going to be presidential gaff. The headline there.
Yeah.
The apple has fallen far from the tree.
Yeah, Montpelier, the only state capital in the U.S. without a McDonald's.
Oh,
Really?
yeah.
Wow, you should be so proud of that. That is incredible.
Well, 2021 was the Big Mac of shit years. So what does 2020...
Oh no, you just said that wrong. You've already written it off 1 month in. I mean, fair enough.
Well, 2020 was the Big Mac of shit years. So what does 2021 have in store for you guys as a cider maker? I can't believe I fucked that up. I tried so hard. I'm pissed.
You might be right. It still might be a shit year, but it's just not going to be as bad as 2020 was.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, touch wood, please, touch wood. I'm not having another one. No, but yeah, what have you guys got planned? Like, what happened last harvest, and like what is coming out this year? Are there any exciting things that you are pumped to bring to the table in this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think what COVID has done for us is, in a way, forced us to abandon the market strategy we had, which was go to restaurants. And the reason we were going to restaurants was because that's where wonderful sommeliers with all kinds of passions introduce customers to weird things like cider. And people weren't we figured people wouldn't pay the amount that our bottle cost sitting on a shelf if they hadn't had a chance to try it. And since COVID came along, that sort of blew that whole thing up. And we're now very much focused on high-end bottles and interesting, cool stuff for direct-to-consumer and our cider club. And we've introduced cans for retail because that's what's moving. And we're trying to see if, is there a place for a can that is, 100% local apples without anything else added in?
Yes, there is.
Well, the
Yes,
place
there
for
is.
that,
Yes, there
Eleanor,
is, yeah.
is my heart. That's exactly.
There absolutely is. And I'm so glad you're exploring that.
And Grant's gonna help.
Yeah, there might be some of
I
those.
see.
cans
Gratuitous
and-
plug. You see, I'm not the only one with Ciderology by Gabe Cook who likes to do a gratuitous plug. Thank you, producer Scott. Every now and again, quite rightly so.
Yeah, but I feel good about my plugs because they're for other people. So
That's the Scottish way of saying I'm not a piece of shit. But no, Eleanor, honestly, as well, like it's a conversation in the UK, and I'm sure it's in the States where like bottled cider, canned cider, but also 750ml, and then the single serving can. But like, if you can give your market, and if it comes to the UK, if I can get a can of something from you guys that is equal to this, I will be absolutely blown away.
There's no way we can make that in a can.
I didn't mean the same process. I meant the same care and everything. No,
care, but it's not.
Sorry, I'll step in as UK distributor here, and that's absolutely gone through the same.
Oh my
No, but
God.
I think you were making that point earlier that putting something in a can doesn't necessarily devalue the liquid, and
Right.
that's something I think that's that's happening now, and not only that, but that it's more accessible format for people who are maybe new to cider and might get a bit scared by a 750.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm excited to bring over some cans. They will be here quite soon.
Our intention is not to say take a fancy 750 ml cider and stick that liquid in a can.
No,
because there is this really wide variety of perceptions in the market about what cider is. And what we want to do is we want to grab you when you are a mass market cider buyer and start making you think that there's something more. And so it's a gentle progression from what's available run-of-the-mill canned cider to our cans and then up to the bottles. And so the thing that is a challenge that we are really careful about is that's consistent with who we are, is what goes into our cans is made once a year, pressed at harvest when it has all its flavor, and aged before it's packaged. So, what I've seen is people do things like, I'm going to make a single variety Sopa Spitzenberg or Ashmead's Kernel cider in a can, and they're still producing it in 3 to 4 weeks and sticking it in a can, and there's no chance for fruit character development. So you get things that are kind of thin and very pointy. They're sort of high acid without a lot of roundness to them.
You mentioned Roxbury Russet there. Just looking at just as a final, looking to as a last homage to the final time that this drink will ever be talked about ever again anywhere, quite possibly. That the list of
coming in cans soon.
Yeah. the list of ingredients of the apple varieties on the back is extensive, and it's brilliant, and not enough UK cider makers do that. But it just in my mind it sort of reads a little bit like the sort of the character list from a sort of a British period drama, Kingston Black,
Daphne du Maurier novel.
Exactly, Grant, you nailed it.
Fuck off, Gabe.
Kingston Black, played by Matthew
Just
McConaughey. Roxbury Russet, played by Emma Stone.
McConaughey.
Isopus Spitzenberg. I don't know. It's a bit of a Hollywood version. Of
Hollyberg?
A Hollyberg.
It's a bit of a Hollyberg with the Matthew McConaughey.
And on that bombshell, we should probably finish this interview. Eleanor, thank you so much for joining us here at the Neutral Cider Hotel. For anybody who wants to learn a little bit more about what Eden Ciders are all about, what are the best places, websites, social media channels that they should head to?
EdenCiders.com. And we've got some fun little videos on there too, and awesome. Information about all our ciders that are available. Cider is Wine for sure, which are currently has ciders available for purchase in the UK, and Scratting still has some, I think. And soon,
I think we might have got the last 3.
Yeah, this is it.
This was a squeaky bum time purchase. This was like, running low.
And soon, Grant.
Really?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, Grant, you didn't say anything about this.
Oh,
What?
no. I didn't mention it once, did I?
You said you were getting just some cheap cans in from the States. I didn't know that they were from an artisanal producer with the...
Amazing. Well, in the not too distant future, anybody on the UK side of the Atlantic is going to get the opportunity to try a lot more of your ciders, and you're obviously significantly well known in the US. For any of our US listeners who've not had the opportunity to try Eden Ciders, if this conversation doesn't convince you to do so, then get out there and try. They really are some of the best ciders that I think are being made in the US or anywhere on the planet. I did say it at the start of the show, and I will take my $10
Very true.
next time I see you, my friend Eleanor. Madam President, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Salute to you. Looking forward to
saluting. Listeners, we're all saluting, and it just happened.
We all just did it
So
completely
weird.
normally. Like,
So
that's
weird.
what you do.
You're so obedient. Thank you very much for joining us. We're very much looking forward to seeing you in the UK at the earliest possible opportunity when it allows. If not, we'll see you on your side. And I've never made it to Vermont. I'm just going to, end up knocking on your door one day probably. So, yeah.
No, please give me warning so I can roll out the red carpet.
No, he won't. He'll just turn up. It's one of those people.
In an apple costume. We're going to drink.
Oh, is this not right? I'll get my banana costume on.
Eleanor,
Indeed,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing you soon. Cheers.
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 Bye.
And now it's time for our listener questions, where we take a crack at answering the inquisitive minds of our dear listeners. Martin Goodwin-Sharman, what are the questions our listeners are asking us this week?
So, a little bit of a tangent here, but Amir, who is at Oblong Mouth on Twitter, so Oblong Mouth, he said, yeah, slight pear drop acidity, then a load of fresh apples. Went lovely with my chippy tea. And then Dick, former Cider Buzz, who's a previous
Is that
guest.
what he's changed his Instagram to?
Former Cider
I'm
Buzz.
still using it. It's great.
Brilliant.
But the artist formerly known as Cider Buzz
Indeed.
said, hey Adam, drink scribbler, and James the cider critic, can you sneak this into your next cider review? Went lovely with my chippy tea. So he's curating like what the cider scene says. So he says to Adam and James, you should do that. And he says, come on, Neutral Cider Pod, can we have a ciders for a chippy tea episode? Too uncool to suggest a BSP official theme tune? And then had a YouTube link, and it's just like, dude, you've done too much research, just drink the cider. But the important thing here is we actually listen at the Neutral Cider Hotel. We're not like James and Adam. We don't just go in it for the glory. We're here for you, the listener. And and we're going to answer this. Guys, the reason I brought this up is because Grant's discussed it, but Gabe, what would you have for like fish and chip dinner with cider? And Grant, you were saying that Abel, the new shop, is going to be set up near an award-winning fish and chip shop.
That's very true.
What preliminary ciders are you thinking I'm going to get this in for the fish and chip shop drinkers?
What? I mean, Grant, go.
Am I going first? So I have thought about this, and I'm thinking. So people, our shop is a few hundred meters walk from this chippy. There's a lot of chippies. It's right by the sea. So I think.
So there's quite a lot of fish in the sea. Is that what
You've
you're
not
saying?
really told it. The shop near a chip shop, actually near loads, near the sea. Go on.
Chip shop, chip
sea. Right. Why am I being interrupted there? That's a totally normal thing to say. There's loads of chippies because we're by the sea.
No, but I let me put it this way. I thought the award-winning chip shop was like the aspect that you were angling for before. Like you said it quite concisely before when you were like, we're married with that and I'll recommend you fish and chips. So it was more like
if without that chippy, it would be the one next door that would be award winning, and if without that one, it'd be the one next door to that was award winning. They're all technically would be award winning if it wasn't for the one next door. So they're all brilliant. They're all fucking amazing. They all get the same fish. So you get your fish and your fish supper, and then you come to Abel, and I would recommend what are you doing? Are you taking your chippy home? You're taking chippy home. Get a bottle, and a bottle of probably depends if we have it in. Probably Col Fondo, Little Pomona Col Fondo would be pretty good.
Here he is. Here he is.
Or
why that one? The acidity to match it?
The acidity, the carbonation, it would cut through the fat brilliantly. And if you put a load of salt onto your, they're going to do it for you. But if you put a load of salt on that, it's going to marry brilliantly.
Oh, you bastard!
If you got your chippy and you're going to eat it on the harbour and you want a wee quick can Ancho Cider Blanc is going to be your best
Oh,
friend.
he's good, isn't he? Isn't he good?
Oh, everyone's going to have heartburn in Scotland. Listen to this.
Everyone's going to have heartburn. Everyone's got heartburn in Scotland.
And that is the episode of the fucking title of the episode. Everyone's got heartburn.
They do. I would love to see figures for Rennie sales in the UK.
Well, Gabe, you're just shy. You've just moved, so you're just shy of Nempnet Thrabwell. So I'm
just going to say, I can actually see Nempnet Thrabwell from it's on the other side of the lake.
Oh, fuck off.
On the other side of the lake. Have you got a badminton net over that lake?
Honey, grab the binoculars. The Nempnet Thrabwell is shining in this autumn wind. I just am absolutely taken. The shuttlecock has gone south of Nempnet Thrabwell. Oh, what cider would I have for my chip supper? Gabe, tell me.
Well, I could go for Nempnet Thrabwell by Wilding.
Gorgeous
Wilding. So, see, I've done a Wilding. Fuck.
Small arms.
This ain't a scene, it's a goddamn arms race.
We really do need to get Tom from Wilding on to give him his due as well.
And an apology.
And an apology. I'm slightly miffed that Grant has already stolen my let's go for the acidity to cut through the fat type line.
Well, flip it. So you've got a shed load of vinegar and a shed load of salt on the chip. No. Let's every drinker and every angle. So you've got a shed load of vinegar and a shed load of salt on your chips. You want the opposite. You want something that's going to be nice to drink with against that acidity. So is there anything like sugar or body wise that you'd go, that'll absorb that acidic kick?
That's thank you, Martin.
All right, I feel like you've just given him the answer. I just got a blank. Tell me what you're drinking with this.
Mr. bragging about recommending ciders to his fucking fish and chip shop. You set yourself up for this.
You fucking asked me the question and he didn't give me any tips. And then this guy's written a fucking book on cider and he somehow gets a preface that says, here, Gabe, why don't you say this? This is what I think I would drink with my fish supper. Why don't you say this? Fucking nut. Right? I mean, what?
Well, I feel as from one vegan to another. Oh no! So I'll help out the guy. But no, more so. I'm not even being funny. That it was all a lead up because you've got all that fat there. But I love, Hannah and I will buy chip shop chips and they'll say, how much salt and vinegar do you want? And we'll always say until the bag breaks. That's the level. I want something to absorb it. So this was quite selfish for me, Grant, to say, Gabe, what would you say to a fish and chip shop purchaser who has that much?
Well, I would say if you're going for corroding metal levels of vinegar and salt, which is I think where you're heading, to go for something that was a little softer, a little fruitier, a little sweeter, dare I say, possibly something amongst the Pilton range of ciders, the classic
Probably in
Pilton.
touch.
No.
That's it. That's exactly
Have I just fallen? Have I just
and
fallen
it
for it?
all becomes clear. It's like an episode of Columbo. Just one more thing. He set the whole thing up, you dick.
No. Who's the guy? I'm going to find him now. Who's the guy?
You Hannah last night, like, how can I get in touch into the episode again tomorrow? Talk about chips. And then get Grant to pick what he wants, and then just tell Gabe what he's going to pick by proxy.
You've not made it Columbo. You made it more Rip Taylor. You went, just one thing.
Sorry. Who's Rip Taylor?
Rip Taylor he's an old comedian who passed away a couple of years ago, but he is most notable
Rip
for
Taylor
me. He's the end of the Jackass. He does the sticks with
He's
all
in
the
Wayne's World Yeah.
That's right.
So you went, it's like Columbo. Oh, just one more thing.
Come on.
Well, Martin, the joke's on you, actually, because I wasn't going to suggest In Touch. I was going to suggest possibly Tamashanta. Actually, what I was going to suggest was something from the Perry's range of ciders. Possibly their Dabonet or Somerset Red Streak, that fruitiness, that little bit of grippiness, but that nice sort of unctuous...
Is the Red Streak the one with the dragonfly on it?
No, that's the Dabonet. The Red Streak is the one
Beetle?
with the... Beetle? Yeah, that's right. That's right.
No,
yeah.
well, listeners at home, both are fucking lovely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would happily say, I know I'm not in charge of doing the tastings, but Gabe, we actually need to get some bottles of them on because
we really do. That's a very, very good shout.
Market accessible. They're pretty much, in Bristol, they're readily available in a lot of the shops, but I've not had a bad one. So yeah, no, definitely.
Very, very well made ciders. And George Perry's the next generation. He's kind of our age, so teenager practically. Who's
my age?
Yeah, your age.
I know exactly.
My age.
All right, Gabe.
Yeah, we're in touch. You old people.
Oh, fucking hell.
We are Tamashanas and
bringing Perry's cider, this fantastic traditional 200-year-old cider maker, into the 21st century, and branding's a big part of that. Tom Frost, the fantastic designers, then their labels, they're really, really iconic and helps to give that presentation as a modern product. But yes, I think actually that balance of Italian and acidity would work quite well.
Well, one of the bag-in boxes that we used to sell in the Cock Tavern, it was from the Real Ale Company, but we used to get in there a Barn Owl, and from memory, this was like, it sounds silly, it's a really challenging drink to get into. It was one by the pint or by the half pint, but it was a bretted, so Brettanomyces fermented cider, wild, funky, crazy, intense, acidic, tannic. It was huge. It was like, I would drink it now and go, whoa, that's a lot. But people were buying it, I'm not even kidding, pretty much by the picture at the Cock Tavern, because the label was this cute little illustrated owl. And you could get them into anything. They were like, oh, no, we like the owl one. And you're like, mate, this is...
I was going to say, the labels, again, it was like, the presentation of it's brilliant. I remember the first time I tried it was like, oh, I'll try that heron one and the beetle, and, like, it draws people in, and if the product maybe if the cider isn't what you expect, fine, but as long as it's good and well made and
exactly, yeah,
that's what they are. Let's get them on. George Perry, you say, is
George. Get in here, mate.
If you're listening,
just one George.
I'm not sure if he's listening. Come on down, get in here.
Well, also as well, we're quite a small cider podcast, so like someone's listened, going, "Oh, they've mentioned me. How do I get in this hotel? The doors seem locked." And I think they shall remain locked, and we should just wrap it up here. So Gabe, just polish the keys and let's fuck off.
Well, so succinctly put, annoyingly succinctly, dare I say, from Martin, as ever. Another Neutral Cider Hotel podcast. Here we go. Thank you massively to Eleanor from Eden Cider and Madam President of the United States of America. Please, hopefully. Hope you've enjoyed the show as ever. And, if you do enjoy our podcast and want to help, please do tell your friends all about us. And remember to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify or your favorite podcast app. Check us out on the socials, Neutral Cider Hotel on Instagram and Facebook, Neutral Cider Pod on Twitter. And for all other info, check out neutralciderhotel.com. Well, there we go. That wraps up another week, another session, another round of inane ramblings and engaging conversations. If you've got any questions, do send those in to any social media channel, and Martin will be...
Ours? No, don't any of them. Send them to the Neutral Cider Hotels don't socials.
Don't send them to Eleanor's or to
Barack Obama's.
Yeah.
So we know who is next week. So Gabe, who who is next week's guest?
It's Colleen and James from Duck Chicken Cider, based out of London. Tune in to see their perspective on the world of cider. Thank you all very much for listening to Neutral Cider Hotel. Once again, have a jolly good week. We'll see you next time. Wassail!